Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. I'm so excited to introduce to you one of my favorite new friends. Also, one of my favorite people in all of social media to follow. His name is Ryan Pineda. And Ryan was a former pro baseball player. We're going to talk about his journey. He went from professional baseball to real estate investor. And that started in like 2010. And he since has invested over $100 million in over $100 million of real estate. And then he became an entrepreneur, and he has founded 7 different businesses that have gone on to generate 7 or 8 figures in annual revenue. He also has 2 million social followers online, has generated over 1 billion views with his videos. He lives in Vegas with his wife, Mindy. They got 3 kids, and he's just a really amazing guy. We've got some fun stuff going on together that we'll tell you about if you stick around to the very end. Ryan has a conference that I will tell you about, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But we want to hear the journey of how all of this happened. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rory. And man, I just appreciate, by the way, all your help behind the scenes. Your willingness to answer questions and all the different things I got going on and serve and everything else, dude. So it means a lot.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure, man. I love helping people as much as I can, and obviously networking, and people know that I'm a hardcore Bible thumping Jesus freak, and especially when I find other believers out there in the business world, I'm always like, hey, like I want to help however I can. So walk me through this story. You were playing for the Oakland A's, right? Is what the story was. So how do you go from pro baseball to real estate investor? Take me on that journey quick.
Yeah, so I grew up just wanting to play baseball my whole life. It was all I ever did. And I was fortunate to be, a really good player every step along the way. I was on varsity as a freshman, then I get a D1 college scholarship and become an All-American, all those things. And then I get drafted by the Oakland A's in 2010. The only problem is in pro baseball, you have to start in the minor leagues. It's not like the NBA and the NFL where, you go straight to the top and you start making millions. In the minor leagues in baseball, you make $1,200 a month. That's
Yep.
what it was back when I was playing.
Wow.
And you only get paid while you're playing. So it's 6 months out of the year. So I was essentially making $7,000 a year in the minor leagues.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't have a choice. I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to do real estate. I just wanted to eat, you know? And so I ended up getting my real estate license the same year I got drafted because I knew I was going to need to do something to make money in the off season. So, I became a realtor. And what I didn't realize back then was that was literally the hardest time pretty much in history to be a realtor. The market had just crashed. Prices were at all-time lows, which was great if you were an investor. The problem was no one had money. Everyone just got wiped out from, the Great Recession. And as a realtor, I'm just selling the deals. And so when, your commission is based on the sales price and prices are at all-time lows and no one has money to buy, it becomes really tough. And you're 21 years old and you don't even know what you're doing. So it was a really hard time. The average price of a home back in 2010 in Vegas, which is obviously a big market, was $100,000.
Wow.
So if I was lucky, I could make $3,000 selling a home that was super hard to sell back then. And I quickly learned I hated it. As far as representing
You had an
clients.
early knack for picking careers to go broke, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's what you
Yeah. Yep. So I realized quick, I was like, dude, this ain't for me. I sold a couple of houses. I got really mad, honestly, because I knew these were great deals. After a couple of years, one deal just finally put me through the edge. It was a house that was built in literally 2 years before, 1,800 square feet in Vegas, 4 bedroom, 3 bath. It was 100,000 or it was $90,000. That was the list price.
Wow.
Literally never been lived in. And I'm telling this guy, I'm like, dude, this is a crazy deal. Like, you can't lose. You could go rent this right now for $1,200. Like you can't lose. And he's like, I don't know, man. I think it's gonna go down. And I'm like, what's it gonna go down to? Is it gonna be free? I don't understand. I'm like, what? How do you lose on this?
Where do you go down from 0? Yeah, like
Yeah, this house just sold for 400,000 a couple of years ago, and you think it's going down from 90? You can't even build a house for 90 grand. So, he's like, you don't get it, kid. One day you'll get it. And, at that point, that was the tipping point for me where I was like, all right, this ain't for me. So I actually quit real estate. Along this path, what ended up happening was I met my now wife. And so, we get engaged. And while we're engaged, I actually get released from the Oakland A's. So, I spent 3 years in the minor leagues with them, and I get released in spring training. And so we're engaged, and I'm like, well, babe, I really don't know what I'm gonna do, because I thought I was gonna, make it in baseball. I've already, failed at that. I failed at real estate. And now we're about to get married, and you're in college not making any money and getting in debt. And she was going to school to be a teacher. So she wasn't ever going to make money. And I was like, I really don't know what I'm good at or what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out. So we end up getting married, and I end up furnishing our apartment with all of our wedding money. We got some gifts and stuff. And I bought all this furniture on Craigslist. And I remember looking at the apartment. I was like, man, I got a really good deal on all this furniture. I bet you I could flip it and make some money. Because I was always a hustler growing up. I flipped Pokemon cards. I was flipping cell phones. I was flipping anything I could make money at. So, like, I just had this knack for finding deals and flipping, which is why it frustrated me as a realtor, because I was finding great deals and people weren't buying them. That's why I got so mad. So I look at the furniture and I was like, what if I just bought one piece of furniture a day and I flipped it? I could make great money. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So I buy a couch and I bring it back to our little apartment. She's like, why did you buy another couch? I'm like, trust me. Okay. I have this idea. I ended up selling the couch and making $200. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just do this like every day. If I just buy one couch a day, I'm going to make $6,000 a month. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I ended up starting my first business flipping furniture. I got a storage unit. I was putting all the couches there. I was cleaning them, posting them on Craigslist, offering free delivery. And sure enough, it went from 2,000 a month to 4,000 to 6,000 to 8,000. I was like, we are freaking rich. This is crazy. I'm making more in a month than I was making in a year as a minor league player. And, that was my first successful business. Now, during this time too, I was also still playing baseball. So I ended up signing a deal with an independent team, and I ended up going to play 5 more seasons. So I played 8 seasons overall in professional baseball.
Cool.
But during every season, I was always hustling, making money in weird ways. And so from there, 2015 happened. So this is 5 years after the fact. We're on our 1-year anniversary. And well, this is late 2014, early 2015. And I'm praying and I'm like, God, I'm grateful that I'm providing for my family now, my wife. We didn't have kids yet. I'm grateful for this couch flipping thing, but I know I'm called for more. I'm not supposed to just flip couches the rest of my life. I was like, what should I do? And it was the first time I ever like really heard God like audibly tell me something. And I just heard like this whisper of real estate. And in my mind, I'm like, real estate? I already did that and failed. I'm not going to do that again. Like, it sucked being a realtor. And sure enough, I see this TV commercial pop up like no more than an hour later. And it's like, you want to learn how to flip houses today? This big infomercial, with no money, no credit, nothing. And I'm like, scam. I'm not doing that. And I just felt like the Holy Spirit in me telling me to look further into it. So I get on Google and I'm like, what's can you buy real estate with no money? Nobody ever taught me this in realtor school. Like, that's not true. And so I look it up and I find this website called Bigger Pockets. And it's like, oh yeah, you can totally buy real estate without money. Here's how, you can do wholesaling, private money, all these different things. And I was like, holy crap, this is exactly what I've been looking for. I always knew how to find deals. That was never my problem. I just didn't have money. If I could just sell these deals and make money, I'll kill it. So sure enough, I told my wife, I was like, hey, we're flipping houses. And she's like, all right.
It's just like
So
flipping couches, but with more zeros. I mean, what could
yeah,
go wrong?
what could go wrong, right? I'm just going to max out our credit cards and get, high interest loans, but what could go wrong? So, I came back and went back to Vegas. And on the flight home, actually, this was the first time I ever encountered prophecy. And I didn't know what it was at the time because I grew up in the Baptist church. So they never talked about these things. And this guy sitting on the plane next to me, my wife and I weren't sitting together because we were so cheap. We didn't want to pay for assigned seating. So forget about that, right? That was the old me. All right. Now, this guy sitting next to me, and I'm sitting here reading this book about how to flip houses with no money. And it was by my friend Brandon, my now friend Brandon Turner, who's a great dude. And he's basically like, talking about all these ways you can flip houses. And the guy goes, hey, what are you reading? I was like, well, I'm reading about flipping houses. I'm about to go into this business. And he's like, so I don't talk to people a lot, like on planes and stuff, but God wants me to tell you that you're going to be very successful in this and you're going to change a lot of lives by
Wow.
doing this. Mind you, I'd never flipped a house. This was just an idea. This is some random guy on the airplane. And he goes, and on top of that, I want to give you my information. He's like, because I flipped hundreds of homes. He was an older guy. He's like, I've done all these different things that the book was explaining that I didn't even understand yet. He was talking about seller finance and all these weird terms. He's like, dude, I've been doing that forever. He's like, if you need any help, here's my stuff. And it wasn't that I wasn't going to do it, but that was like the confirmation I needed of like, all right, it's about to go down.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So we ended up getting back home. I find my first deal. I had to max out all my credit cards to get a down payment. So I maxed out our credit cards between me and Mindy for 50 grand
Wow.
and got a hard money loan at like 13% and bought our first flip. Now, fast forward through it, we ended up making good money. We made 25 grand on that first deal. And
Walk me through that a little bit. So you're putting $60,000 down on a $300,000 house or something.
well,
like
prices weren't that high yet. So what happened was we had 50 grand in credit. So I'm like, well, we might as well just get it all, even if we don't need it. Like, let's just have cash in the bank. So I cash advanced. I had like these 0%, credit offers and balance transfers. And so I'm like, let me just get it all. It's 0%. So we got it all. I had 50 grand in the bank to show liquidity for a hard money loan. And then, I find this deal for $99,000 in Vegas. And so we buy that first home. I sold it in 51 days for 135,000. And I put like $1,000 into it. So we made money really quick. And during that time, I bought a second home with the rest of the cash and another hard money loan. That ended up making me 15 grand. And so did really good on the first two. Rolled that into every dollar back into another deal and another deal. I kept my credit cards maxed out for years, just continuing to roll cash into new deals. Flipped 5 houses that first year in 2015. The next year I flipped 20. The next year after that, I flipped 50. And then I flipped 150 in the 4th year. And then we've been doing over 100 ever since, even to this day.
Wow, that's pretty ballsy. That's cojones. I mean, that's maxing out. That's like laying it all on the line.
That's how I always have operated, though. At the end of the day, it's like, if I feel this convicted about an idea, we're either all in or we're not doing it. There's no in between.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So then you go from that. So you're learning how to flip houses. You're learning how to basically secure financing. You're doing this. You're good in making deals. So you're basically just buying them, fixing them up, turning around, selling them, making a profit on the difference.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, where does social media come on the scene? Like, why do you start going, oh, let's do a podcast and let's put a bunch of time and money into social media? Like, where does that show up?
Yep. So let's say from 2015 to 2019, all I really did was flip houses. And a lot of people don't know that. Most people think, oh, this dude just had a bunch of businesses all at once and like they grew. It's like, no, that's not what happened. Like I pretty much spent 5 years only focused on flipping houses and becoming really, really good at it. Now, during that time, like I learned how to run a business. Like I was raising millions of dollars of capital. I was hiring people. We were marketing. We were selling. I was handling construction projects. Like anything with running a business, I was learning it. I was also still playing baseball at this time too. I retired in 2017, so I probably flipped 80 homes while I was playing, which people don't know either. So I had to learn how to delegate in order to keep playing baseball because that was still my dream, dude. Like real estate was plan B, you know, getting to the big leagues was plan A, and for many years. So, anyways, I end up retiring, and real estate's going great. And I ended up opening up a real estate brokerage because that was a logical thing to do. And we grew that to over 200 agents. So that was a success. Then I ended up
Like a
opening a
regular
tax.
retail real estate brokerage.
Yeah, because I was selling all my flips anyway on the MLS. I'm like, why not get my own brokerage, all the exposure from all my own deals? And so that was the thought process. So then I ended up opening a tax firm because so many people were starting to ask me, dude, where do you do your taxes? All this crap. Because I was developing influence locally. And I ended up opening a tax firm, not really thinking anything of it. I was just like, you know what? If I could just own the tax firm, I like have control of our finances, our bookkeeping. And if we make enough money where it's like basically pays for itself, that would be great. That was literally my mindset. But that's not what happened. What ended up happening was it built into a multi-million-dollar firm, that made millions of dollars. And, we had hundreds and hundreds of clients. I actually sold that company last year to my partner. So that was very successful. But long story short, where social media enters is in 2020 during the pandemic.
Yeah, and hold on a second. So just backing up on the tax firm, like nowhere in your history do I hear accounting. What I hear, but
Yeah.
you ended up making money from these deals, and you're trying to figure out how to minimize your tax liability, and so you figured that out in an entrepreneurial sense, and then you hired some accountants to help you build a tax firm, and then sold it, even though you never sat for a CPA exam or anything like that.
Correct. I ended up going through a bunch of accountants over the years, and I finally found one, young guy too, that I really liked. And he was working for another tax firm at the time. And, I remember this was back in late 2019. He was just, we were doing one of our quarterly parties, and he was like, man, I really want to quit the firm and start my own. And I was like, why don't we just start one together? Like, I know how to get clients. Like, that won't be a problem. And we're like, all right, deal, let's do it. Like that was literally it. And then we started it at the end of 2019. So it was literally going into the pandemic that we started it. And social media is really what helped it explode because social media ends up, being the lead catalyst for all the businesses I've started essentially. But yeah, I know a ton about tax, obviously, from having a tax firm now and being in real estate. Real estate's the most tax efficient mechanism like in the world today, period. There's nothing that gives you more tax benefits than real estate. So it all went hand in hand. But anyways, 2020 happens in March, and obviously the world gets shut down. And dude, at the time I had 50 house flips going. So, I got like $20 million of debt on the streets,
Wow.
just sitting there. And I'm like, huh, I wonder what's about to happen. Like they're saying that the world might crash, the economy might crash. Like, I don't know, man. And I can't really do anything about it. These properties are here and there's nothing I can do. I've already bought them. And I can't go to the office. I can't do anything. So this is probably the second big God moment I ever had in my life. The first I told you about with flipping houses. The second was I had multiple people during this time tell me, Ryan, you should make YouTube videos. You should do TikTok. I'm like, dude, what am I going to do TikTok? This stupid kids app. Like, what are we doing here? And I'm like, who watches YouTube? Honestly, that's what I thought. I was like, who literally watches YouTube? They're like, people watch YouTube. What are you talking about? I'm like, I go to YouTube to learn how to tie shoes or something, like how to tie a tie. I don't go there to like watch stuff. And I soon learned that obviously people go to YouTube to like watch stuff. And I start watching all these entrepreneurs. Well, I wouldn't even call them entrepreneurs. They're more just like content creators at that time. So I start seeing these real estate guys because I was like, who do you guys watch? Just tell me who you think is the best. So they start telling me these guys who are now my friends, like Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin and these other YouTube guys. And I was like, okay, so what have they done? And the reality was at that point, they hadn't really done much. Like they couldn't hold a candle to anything I had done in the real estate world. And I was like, so you guys get all your information from them when it comes to real estate. You know, they own like 10 houses. Like I flipped hundreds of homes. And they're like, yeah, but they're great. I was like, okay. So I start watching their videos and they start talking about how much they're making just from like YouTube AdSense and sponsors. They're making hundreds of thousands a month. And I was like, wait a minute. These guys have no overhead, no office, no debt, no employees, none of this crap that I got to deal with. And they make more money. Explain to me how this makes any sense. Like, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to be a hater. Like, I'm in the wrong business. I need to be where they're doing. Media is the business. Like, it just clicked. And it was only because, like I said, I know God's trying to speak to me when I ignore things and then it just keeps coming up over and over again. And so that's what happened. I was like, YouTube's stupid. Then another person's like, hey, you should look into YouTube. Hey, you should look into YouTube. And I was like, all right, fine. Let me look into it. So anyways, long story short, during the pandemic, I start making YouTube videos and TikToks. Now, dude, at that time, people were laughing at me because I was this real estate guy making TikToks and nobody understood it at that time. Entrepreneurs weren't on it yet. But I was like, dude, let me tell you, I think this thing's going to be big because I'm not even a social media guy, but this is addicting watching this stuff. So I just start friggin' making videos. It pops off. I get like 400,000 followers in 90 days or something crazy. Like it went nuts fast. And then YouTube starts to pick up. Actually, my most famous video was about flipping couches, which I told you that story before. And people were like, dude, this helped me so much during the pandemic because I just went through a tutorial. I'm like, this is how you flip couches and you could go all make $5,000 plus a month easily. I guarantee it. And people are like, this changed my life. I see people to this day who are like, bro, I flipped couches and it really helped me out. So, long story short, I make these videos, YouTubes, TikToks, everything. My following grows pretty quickly in 2020. And 2021, I launched the podcast and that thing grows pretty quickly. And, now it's basically like I'm 4 years in the game of taking media seriously. And it was probably the smartest move I ever made. And, that stemmed into, other businesses, raising more capital, learning digital marketing, learning, all the tricks of the trade. And, it's opened up the doors to so many relationships. And so, that's kind of like how it all came about to where we're at today.
Amazing. So on social, how do you think about social media today? Like, how do you think about the strategy for how frequently you're posting, what you're posting? Because you do have multiple businesses going on, but you found a banner and a container for all of this, which is basically money, right? The wealthy way, which is like,
Yeah.
So that is a nice container that holds real estate and tax and entrepreneurship and whatever, all things business. But like strategy wise, what's working on social media? How are you doing it now? How are you thinking about it? Like, talk to me about some of that.
So I think social media is always changing, right? Just like business. And so what worked 4 years ago does not work today. And so you got to kind of always be at the forefront of testing new things, trying new things, and everything else. So what I can say is this, okay? As an entrepreneur, the number one way that social media helps us, obviously, is our business. And so the first thing to understand is what's the goal of your social media? Are you trying to drive leads to your business? Or are you trying to become like a straight up influencer and make new streams of income from ad revenue and sponsors and all that stuff? That was never my intent. I was always like, I'll make far more money pushing traffic to my business. I don't need to be an influencer. So I think number one is to have clarity on what you're doing it for as far as business goes. Now, here's the other part. Social media leads to a lot of other things too with relationships. That's how we got connected, right? It leads to um, opportunities with just different businesses that you otherwise wouldn't have been in, different streams of income. So like there's a lot of benefits to doing it. The question is, what's the best way today? That's basically what you're asking. My philosophy is this. For somebody to become a customer in your company, the number one thing they have to do is trust you. That's how somebody buys. They have to first trust you. So then the deeper question becomes, well, how do you build trust? Right? And you're a branding expert. So what do you think? How do you build trust with somebody?
I mean, the way that part of how we describe it is we trust people that we see. We trust people that we know intimate details about their life, and we trust people that we learn from. So those are like kind of like three of the quickest things of just going like, people got to see you, they got to learn from you, and they have to feel like they know you the way that they would know a real person in real life.
So how would you go about learning those things about them?
I mean, you're sharing them on social. I mean, that basically turns that inverts into like a social strategy, right? Is like teaching what you know, sharing who you are, like sharing some of your belief systems, and then physically them seeing you, right? Is a matter of like basically video and photography is like they have to be able to see you, like they
so
trust you.
I would take it in a step even deeper, right? So I'll ask this with another question. This is what Jesus did, right? He just asked a bunch of questions all the time. He never gave a straight answer. So like with AJ, your wife, how long did you guys date before you got married? I know the answer because I listen to your podcast, but just for everyone.
You listen to our Eternal Life podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So we started dating in 2007, and then we got engaged in the fall of 2009. So it was like 2.5 years.
So you had 2.5 years to get to know each other.
Yeah.
And then you got engaged and you got married. So the simple answer is, in order to trust somebody, it requires time. You have to spend time with somebody. That's literally the number one thing. Like all those things that you described happen by just spending time.
Sure.
And so the question then becomes not necessarily how many views you can get somebody to watch you or how many impressions you can get, but how much time do they actually spend? Because there are people that see me, let's say on a reel or something or an ad, but they've never spent time with me. They could recognize me and they could be like, oh yeah, I know that guy with the hair, right? But they don't know me, like you said. They don't know the intimate side of me, what I believe. They've never learned from me. They could just, I'm recognizable to them. The key is for somebody to become a customer, they have to spend time with you. That's it, right? And so we know from like sales and stuff that, there's like the 7 hours. If somebody spends 7 hours with you, there's a good chance they're going to buy. And this is why events are so effective, because it's like a hyper way to spend time with somebody. If I throw a full 2-day event, dude, you just spent 48 hours with me. Like we're going to really get to know each other. You're going to develop a lot of trust. So how this plays into the social media strategy is very simple. The number one way to spend time with somebody in today's world of social media is a podcast. There's no other form of content that's long form like that, that's raw, that you actually get to hear what they're really like. It's not scripted. You truly get to know the person through a podcast. And the beauty of a podcast is you can chop it up, repurpose it, get all your other short form clips and everything else that you need too. So it's not only like the best way to build trust, it's also the most efficient way to film content. And then the way we look at it is we simply just use our short form repurposed clips as like marketing to get them to watch the long form. And so through our research, what we have discovered is that the longer your podcast is, the better. Most people have the wrong idea about podcasts, thinking that, oh, well, people don't want to listen to like a super long podcast. It's not true. Joe Rogan's been doing 3-hour podcasts for a long time. Patrick Bet-David, his podcasts are going ultra long. You go look at the biggest podcasts in the world right now, they're all 1.5 to 3 hours every episode. And you just start to think about how much trust these guys are building with their audience because of the time spent. And so now the new thing that we look at is not followers or views, but it's watch time. That's our most important metric. And so last year on YouTube, we had 1.2 million hours of watch time on
Wow.
YouTube.
Wow.
And when you think about that, that's 150 years almost. So people spend 150 years with me in 1 year. And so you start to think about the concept of leverage in that way. It's like, man, if I could go get 10 million hours, in the next year or two, that's 1,500 years that people are going to spend with me.
And
That's an
is
insane
your
number.
YouTube the podcast also? I mean, is that how you think
Yeah.
of it? As like it's just video podcast? Now I'm
Yep.
doing that.
And that's not even counting the audio downloads. And because audio downloads don't tell you watch time in the way YouTube does, they just go by downloads. So it's actually the number's a lot higher than that. But that's just the clear number I know that YouTube tells me. That's the most important metric because I know if you spend time with me, we're going to do something together. Like that's all that it comes down to. So we just want to get people spending time with us as much as possible. And that's the game of social media and business now. We're in competition with Netflix. We're in competition with books. We're in competition with YouTube. We're in competition with literally anything that's entertainment. Here's another thing to think about for all the entrepreneurs listening. We know that money can be printed. And so there's an infinite supply of money at the end of the day. But time is the one thing that it is truly capped per person. Basically, the studies have found that we have about 4 hours per day of discretionary time. Think about it. We're going to sleep 8 hours. We're going to work 8 hours. The other 4 hours, we got to go eat. We got to, put our kids to bed. We got to, do things. But we basically have 4 hours a day to do whatever we want.
Those of you with toddlers know that you spend 4 hours a day trying to put your kids to bed.
Exactly. Exactly. So guys like us have less. And then other people maybe have 8, right?
Yep.
So, but the average is 4 hours, and that's never going to change. It just isn't unless they figure out how to make people not work and not sleep. So 4 hours is literally capped per person. So if I'm like, Rory, like when you tell me that you're like, dude, you're one of my favorite people to watch, that means a lot to me because I know you have 4 hours to go spend on whatever you want. You could go watch Netflix. You could go watch a movie. You could go watch a TV show, social media, a podcast, listen to an audiobook. They're all competing for the same 4 hours. And so the fact that you chose to listen or watch something of mine says a lot about, what you value. And, it means a lot to me because I know like the cost of it. It's easy for you to go pay me $1,000. That's not as significant as choosing to go spend hours consuming content. And that's what people don't understand yet is that the money is easy. It's the time that we're all after. And that's why Facebook and YouTube are so valuable because of that.
So I want to come back to the events conversation. So this is something else that you do really well. When we started our first business, so we started in 2006, we ultimately grew it to 200 people. It was 8 figures when we sold in 2018. But for the first 4 years, from 2006 to like 2010, all we did was live events. Like all we did was put like 750 to 1,000 people in a room. And it was grueling, right? Like we did not do digital marketing. We did all human sales force, like calling out of the phone book. Then we'd go to their office. We'd do a free 1-hour presentation. We try to convince them to buy tickets to come. And we would do that for 4 months and we would generate revenue, right? We would generate a few $100,000 in revenue. But like when you add up the venue, the AV, the speakers, the coffee, the like workbooks, like we would lose money at least a third of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if we made anything, it usually wasn't that much. You're doing an event right now, almost, is it once a quarter you're doing an event?
For our big events, yeah. But we'll even run little workshops at the office, like, once a month or every other month.
So how are you doing events once a quarter? So tell us about the event. First of all, give us a sense of the order of magnitude here of like, how many people are coming to these events and where are they and what it looks like and who the speakers are, etc. And then I want to hear about like how you're doing that and not losing your tail constantly.
I know. People, it's an interesting thing, right? So we have an event called WealthCon, which you're talking about. So anybody can go look it up. Wealthcon.org is the website. And we hold it once a quarter. And if you look on it, it's advertised as a real estate, business, and social media event, right? So we have speakers on all three topics. I would say 50% is real estate, and then the other 50% is business/social media. So anyone who wants to learn content, you're going to learn some content. You're going to learn some business principles, and then you're going to learn a lot about real estate. Now, the way all this started, to just backtrack a little bit, is that back in 2020, when I got on social media, I started doing coaching too. So I never wanted to be a guru or anything. I hated gurus. I don't know why. I was just like, yes, you don't need to learn. Like, you can learn for free. And yeah, sure, I learned for free, but I never leveled up until I started paying people. And very few people are good enough to learn for free. That's just the reality. So once my mindset shifted, we started doing coaching. And that first year, with no marketing or anything, we made 700 grand. And with that, I just randomly was like, hey, we should meet, to all of our students. And they're like, yeah, that would be great. So we had our first ever, well, what's now known today as WealthCon, at my house with 8 people in my living room. That was my first group of students.
Nice.
This was right before the pandemic. So this was in like late February of 2020. We didn't know we were about to get shut down. So anyways, I was like, guys, we should just meet because I think it would be cool. That was it. It was one day. So the next event, the pandemic, they let people out and stuff. And so we meet in like June of 2020. And we meet at my office this time. And we have about 50 people or 40 people. I can't remember. And they're like, yeah, this is great. So once again, this isn't costing me anything. I'm not making anything. It's just kind of part of fulfillment for coaching, even though they were never promised it. I was just like, this would be cool. So then August, September happens. And sure enough, we have another one at the office, but this time the program's growing. We have like 100 people. And I'm like, dude, we can't even fit everyone in here. This is too big. So the next meeting in like January of 2021, we get this space downtown with like this big classroom and stuff. And people come, they love it. We go to the bars afterwards, downtown Vegas, and it's great. And we just have a good time. So then we do that again one more time and we outgrow that space. So then now I'm in a dilemma. I'm like, all right, well, I got to actually go pay now to have a venue. Up to this point, I've never paid anything other than like food costs, like nothing crazy. And I'm like, I'm going to have to like go spend some coin to go throw this event. So we get this little casino called the D in Vegas. It's 50 grand to go do the whole event. It could fit like 250 people. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. We got 150 students. So I could sell like 100 tickets. Let me just see if I could kind of break even on my cost. That was my mindset. And so didn't do any ad spend or anything, but yeah, we go sell 100 tickets. We make some money on the front end. And then at the event, because most of it are students, I don't want to pitch or anything. So I'm just like, hey, if you're new, join us. Just talk to the team, whatever. That was it. And sure enough, people join and it's cool. Like we make, I don't know, let's say 100 grand profit. And I'm like, wow, now this event actually makes money. It's not just like hanging out with the current students. That's cool. So we go and do it again. Well, the next quarter, it gets bigger. And so I got to rent a bigger hotel. So we rent the Sahara, which is like a little south now. So we're moving from downtown, which is like the ghettoest part of Vegas, south towards, now we're getting to the nice places. So this event has like 500 people now. And now it's like, all right, well, crap. If we're going to do it like this, let's do 2 days. So we do a 2-day event now. And same thing, right? We're not spending any money on marketing. The venue cost for that venue, I don't even remember now. Maybe it was like 100 grand or something. And it's great. We end up making money. Nothing crazy. I'm not
So when
like
you say
pitching.
you're not spending money on marketing, you're just selling these seats through your own direct email and social, basically, like your own podcast, your own, like just directly to your existing audience and
Exactly.
existing clients.
Yep. No traffic other than organic, right? So we do that 2 times. So at this point, though, they're starting to get pretty big. And I'm like, all right, this next one, let's get, like, we need a bigger venue. We're going to do this legit. I'm going to get like a speaker lineup because the other ones were literally like me and 3 friends. I would just hit up 3 of my buddies. I'm like, come speak, whatever. So this is the first one. This was, I think October of 2022. We get 700 people in the Mandalay Bay. I got Alex and Layla Hormozy. They did it for free. They were just friends. And, you know, they were already blowing up, but this was obviously like even before they got super, super big. And they killed it. I had other speakers. It was just crazy. And I think we made $1 million at that event net.
Wow.
And
Now you're
it
saying
was,
you're making $1 million because you're selling your coaching at the
yep. So that was my first time ever doing a real pitch structured the way an event would be. And, you know, I did a real pitch. We structured it. You know, we made money on the front end with ticket sales. Like everything about it was just, it was a great event. And the value was great. And by the way, it wasn't called it still was not called WealthCon at this point. You know, it was just like the Future Flipper Mastermind. That was what I called it, because the company used to be called Future Flipper. That was my real estate education. So then going into 2023, I was like, all right, I'm becoming more than real estate. And I just published The Wealthy Way. And I was like, I'm going all in on this wealthy brand. And I'm rebranding everything to be wealthy. And so we ended up what's it called? Changing Future Flipper to Wealthy Investor. And then basically all of our other things became wealthy. So eventually we launched Wealthy Creator, which was for teaching people content creation. And we have Wealthy Business, and now we have Wealthy Kingdom for Christians. And so everything went around this overall brand, and we changed the event name to WealthCon. And yeah, you know, in 2023, every single event had over 1,000 people. You know, we had, you know, great speakers like Lewis House, who's I know a friend of yours, you know, Cody Sanchez, Ed Milet, the list goes on. Like, we've had so many crazy great speakers at each event. And this next one's going to be at the Caesars Palace, April 18th to the 20th. And I think we can get 2,000 now. And really all that's changed is the last about, let's call it 3 events. We actually finally started doing paid ads. We never did paid ads up to that point. We sold them all organically to that point. So that was why we were always profitable, because number one, we didn't have the ad spend costs that everyone else had. Number two, I just have so many friends in the industry. I never paid for a speaker for years. So we didn't have that cost. 3, I'm in Vegas, so people don't mind coming to Vegas. It's freaking easy to get people here. You know, 4, we just I would say our team is really good at just getting deals for the venues and everything else. So we usually sign 2 event deals with a venue and get better costs that way. So, you know, overall, I would say now, for example, with the Caesars event, we're gonna be, let's just say, hard cost all in like 400 grand on hard cost for 2,000 people, which is a great, in my opinion, a super good deal. And like our production's crazy, you know, like the room is sick. We got after parties. We got all this cool stuff. And then whatever I want to spend on ads will be on top of that. But we're going to spend multiple 6 figures in ads over the next, you know, 90 days between events.
What do you spend the money on ads to? Do you just take them directly from an ad to a sales pit, like directly from an ad to a page that says, here's the event, here's the speakers, here's the video?
Yep.
Know,
so this is where people make the mistake.
Whatever.
Yeah. So here's where people screw up in events is they think people are going to self-select buying a ticket. That's not true. We sell probably 95% of our tickets over the phone. So what happens is, in order to see the price, you have to give us your information. And so within a minute, you're getting a call and we're going to hit you up about the event, because most people will just not buy a ticket on their own, especially our tickets. Our tickets are priced from $1,000 to $10,000. So these are not, you know, a $100 event where, yeah, people will self-select for a $100 event. You know, like the event that we're going to be doing together, that one, we're not going to do sales calls, because like there's going to be tickets for $27. You know, like people will self-select buying those. But overall, if it's a higher price ticket event, you have to have a sales team.
Got it. So you drive an ad to the page, get them excited about the event, in order to, you know, learn about the ticket prices. Click here, request a call, and we'll call you and figure out what's right.
Yeah. So to give some context too, like at the end of the day, the event space and everything's changing pretty dramatically. So is the coaching space overall. I am, look, I haven't been in this industry for a long time, but I'm fortunate enough to know the top people who have and just get their feedback about everything. The days of just, structuring these events for a pure pitch and like doing NLP and all this stuff, I think it works for guys like Tony Robbins and everything else. He's been doing it for 30, 40 years. But that's not how I've built my events. My events have always just been new speakers every event. They're given just tremendous value. And will that hurt conversion on like at the event? Sure. Because if I had structured it in a way to like get people in the mindset of buying coaching, then yes, we could potentially do better. But I look at the brand and lifetime value of it. Like WealthCon is becoming a brand in itself where people are like, bro, like that event, that's a sick event. Like, yeah, they're going to sell you something. Every event's going to sell you something. People are savvy enough to know that. But it's not overtly just like fluff. Like people, you're going to go, you're going to know the quality of the room is really high because the tickets are expensive. You're going to know that the speakers are going to give great game because you could see who they are. And you know that, yes, even though I'm going to be sold something, either way, I'm going to have a great experience whether I buy or not. And so for me, what I know is, hey, you know what? Even if they don't buy at the event, it's all good because guess what? Back to what we talked about, 20 minutes ago with trust. You just spent 2 full days with me. We're going to do something at some point. I don't need you to commit to me that event. You're going to commit down the road because you can't just stop. It's inevitable. That's my point. And so I don't need to monetize at the event itself and go crush it. But just to give you some rough context and numbers, like I said, I think the event, let's just say we're all in hard costs, like 400 grand. And once again, like other events, they got 400 grand on speakers. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so dude, yeah, it makes
400 grand is coming to me, buddy.
Yeah, Rory needs 400 on his own, right?
That's
So,
right.
like, you do have to do things different when your costs are that high. Like, okay, dude, if I'm into the event for $1 million before ads and everything, well, heck, dude, I do need to structure it in a way to pitch and make sure we convert, or else I'm going to lose a crap load of money. So my model has always been, well, how can I make sure, like that we do this the right way? So my costs are really low relative to pretty much every other event. And there's no way anyone can really replicate it because it just is relationship based. So that's that. Number 2, I don't chase shiny objects. I do them all in Vegas. I don't really care. People are like, well, bro, don't people get tired of it? Like, don't you need to switch city to city? And I'm like, yeah, if you're trying to just get local people, right? So like I got friends, for example, my friends run the Aspire tour and we talk all the time about events. Like obviously it's what they do. Their tickets are very cheap to go to their events. And let's say 80% of their people are local. So yes, if you're only getting local people, you have to keep switching cities. But 80% of our audience is not even in Vegas. They fly to come to this event because it's so good. And so it's different. Nobody else really has it. And it's because I really value the experience and the value and everything else. So anyways, if my hard costs are like 400 grand to throw it, it's then just a matter of how much I want to spend. And for us, and this is unheard of in the event space, but we're doing about 2.5 to 3x on the front end of ticket sales on ad spend. So if I go spend 200 grand, 300 grand, I'm going to make 500 to 800 grand, on ticket sales.
You're saying in revenue.
In revenue. And so if you just start to think about that, you're like, all right, well, if I spent, let's say 250 and I made 700, now my all-in cost is 650 between ad spend and hard cost. And then I made 700 grand in ticket sales. So I'm already in the green, like going into the event.
Going into the event, right?
Which very few people ever are. And so whatever we sell at the event, it's all gravy. And that way I'm not stressed about, man, dude, we got to like hit numbers. We're $1 million in the hole going to this event, which by the way, many people are. And so it changes the dynamic of what we can do at the event because we're not stressed out. And that's what's allowed us to have longevity and build brand because of the business model, which I don't know that's replicatable, but the only way we're able to really get a 2.5, 3x on ticket sales is because brand, we've proved it at quarter after quarter that it's a great event. And then two, just I'm really good at sales and marketing. So like I know that they got to call them. They got to hit them up to sell that many tickets.
Yeah. So
And we know that, by the way, we know 10% of the room is going to buy something from us at the event.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's awesome, man. I think so why don't we tell them? So let's land the plane. This has been awesome, Ryan. Like it's so cool just to hear your philosophy on podcasts and long form and time spent and everything we do at BBG is request a call, right? That's our whole model. Is just like everything we do, request a free call, and then our team talks to them, right, and figures out because we basically have like 3 different programs at 3 different tiers. One that's very affordable, one that's kind of mid, and then one that's like private clients that is extremely customized. The so we really believe in that. So let's tell them about the event that we're doing. Because this is an event that I'm doing. I'm speaking at it for free, which I never do. I'm doing it because it's you, and mostly because of the topic of the event, and because you have asked me to speak on something that I have never spoken on before publicly. So tell everyone about this.
Yeah. So, WealthCon is our secular event, and we run it every 90 days. It's great. It's a business event. One aspect that we included in WealthCon was we started doing this 2 events ago, was a full-on worship service. And so on the last day at 9:00, we rock out. And it's optional. I tell people, I'm like, hey, we're going to do this worship service. A pastor's going to come speak. If you don't want to participate, come at 10:30. But if you do, come at 9. And 80% of the room comes at 9 just to see what it's all about. And so it's been crazy seeing the feedback from that. I did an altar call at the last one, and we literally had 400 people come up on the altar call. I'm like, hey, if you want to give your life to Jesus or you want prayer, you want to rededicate your life, come up to the stage and the side. Half the room did it. Like we had to like delay the event for 30 minutes praying for all these people. It was nuts. And so anyways, I've seen the change in that. And, I mentioned like the 2 things that God, I feel like audibly spoke to me. First was real estate back in 2015. The second was social media back in 2020. The third is this movement with Wealthy Kingdom. And so, to give 2-minute context of this, because I know we're coming up on time, I've been holding Bible studies in my office in my home for 8 years straight. And it's just something I've been doing for a long time that has really helped me, help people around me, and everything else. And back last year, I was like, man, we need to bring this to the masses. I've had enough people now ask me where they can find this, and it doesn't exist. Like churches just don't have these Bible studies or groups for entrepreneurs. I was like, I'm going to change that. So we start Wealthy Kingdom with the whole goal of getting people into local Bible studies led by entrepreneurs and business people. And so last year we launched 50 Bible studies nationwide. This year, I think we can launch hundreds. And every week you just meet up. We got men's groups, women's groups. And we all follow the same curriculum, so we create a curriculum. So it's super easy to lead. You don't have to be a theologian. You don't have to be an apologist. You just got to be willing to show up as you are and lead the group. Now, with that, we finally got nonprofit status last month. And so I'm like, oh, we're at nonprofit now? It's go time, baby. We're about to go crazy with this. And, part of it is I already know how effective events are for life change and getting people bought in. So I'm like, all right, so we're going to start holding events for Wealthy Kingdom. And, the mission of the event, well, the goal of the event is obviously life change at the event. But, from there, funnel them into local Bible studies nationwide. And once they get into these local Bible studies, they're going to have friendships, relationships, they're going to have spiritual growth. And then the third level from that is, all right, great. Now let's get them serving. Okay. So how do we get them serving? Well, one way is let's get them into their local church now, because so many people are not going to step foot in the local church the way it is today, but they would show up to a Bible study at an office, right? Especially if your coworkers and everyone are there. Like that's much easier to step into than a Sunday service where you'll never talk to anyone, right? You'll show up and then you'll usually leave. That's kind of how it goes in America today. So if I can get them in a more small environment, I know that's where life change happens because I've just seen it personally in the last 8 years. And then they will funnel into the local church. They will start giving. They will start tithing. They will start going on mission trips. You know, they will start serving in their local community and different charities and other things. Like all that will happen. But for me, it all starts with that top funnel of like awareness. And where does awareness come from? I mean, events, groups, all that. Then we get them into Bible studies. Then we get them into serving. So that's our mission at Wealthy Kingdom. And with this event, this is going to be our first event. You know, I'm hoping for just like all the other events we throw, 1,000+ people. It's called the Kingdom Summit. The website's not up, but it might be up by the time that this is released. You can go to kingdomrevivals.com. So all of our events are going to be there. I'm basically going to restart the Billy Graham Crusades and go full force at this. And with that, you know, Rory's going to be speaking with everything he did with his Eternal Life podcast and everything, which, by the way, you asked me, like, did I listen to the whole thing? I did listen to the whole thing. It was like 15 hours.
You listened to all 15 episodes of the Eternal Life podcast?
I did. I listened to all of them.
Wow.
So they were great, by the way. I think the way that you laid it out, I also think that the references you gave, you know, I know you pulled a lot from Case for Christ, from Randy Alcorn, a lot of great sources. Like I'd never read Randy's books. I'm actually now listening to Randy's book too. So it's led me to other things as well. But, you know, you're going to be speaking. Ed Milet is also going to be speaking for free, which he never does either. Like, you know, once again, it goes back to a business model that can't really be copied. It's like, dude, when people resonate with the mission, they want to come out and support. So like Ed's going to come out and support. Tim Ross is coming out to support. Ruslan, who's a big YouTuber, is coming out. Girls Gone Bible are coming out. My friend Jordan Felice, huge Christian singer, is going to be doing a full set.
Oh, yeah. I love him.
Yep. So he lives in Nashville too.
Uh-huh.
And so he's going to close it out with a massive concert. And we're going to have, you know, worship throughout the day too. So it's going to be just a 1-day jam-packed event. Unlike WealthCon, where the ticket's $1,000, you're going to be able to get a ticket for $27. So there's no reason you can't come. And dude, I'm just excited for it. I'm also and look, this is from a guy who's like really good at the event game. Like I know the experience is going to be sick. That part doesn't concern me. You know, my only concern is like how much money I'm going to lose, like throwing the event, because this one I will lose money, like, because at $27, just the math doesn't add up. You know, it's going to cost a lot to go and logistically do all this stuff. And I don't know how much I'm going to have to spend to market this event, but I know that God's going to supernaturally work it out. And so I don't know how we're going to go sell 1,000, 2,000 tickets. You know, but it's going to happen, and the event's going to have a ton of life change, and it's going to be epic.
Yeah, man, I love it. I really love it. So I am going to be speaking on Eternal Life, the Eternal Life podcast, which if y'all don't know, that was where I basically walk through 7 questions every intelligent skeptic should ask about Jesus of Nazareth. And I started a separate podcast to house all that content, which is 15 episodes, which Ryan has made his way through. And so I'll be crafting a one-of-a-kind, never before, first time ever keynote version of that just for this event, because I'm so excited about it, and I believe in Ryan, and I think the it's not replicatable, but kind of it is, because relationships, the strategy of relationships is replicatable.
Yeah, true.
If people build relationships and they add value to people, whoever's next to them and whoever is in their life and whoever they have access to, and they over deliver to the people in front of them, they'll build brand, they'll build relationships, and then that opens up different opportunities and different things. So, you know, we'll link to that, Ryan. So kingdomrevivals.com is the place to go look for that particular event, which is this summer. And then
May 31st.
Where else do you want people to point? Where else do you want to point people to, Ryan, to like learn more about you and what you're up to.
Yeah, just follow me on social media, Ryan Pineda. I mean, we got so many things going on that I can't even dive into all the businesses, man. So just follow me on social and we'll help you out one way or another.
It's really cool. Well, we're praying for your event and grateful for your knowledge and your wisdom, man. Love what you're up to. Thanks for sharing some of the insider kind of philosophies and strategies. Really, really cool, man. So we're pulling for you, praying for you, and I'll see you in a couple months.
Yep. Thanks for having me, man.